What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bodacious Rant with Burn and Rye. Today we are going to be talking about a very interesting movie. A24 just keeps them coming. You know, the last great one they had was Iron Claw, which was just, it still makes me cry. But anyways, we are talking about the newest film, Love Lies Bleeding. Which actually, it's like the way I say it in my head, it's like three different things, but it's like you have to say it, Love Lies Bleeding kind of thing. So it's an interesting play on words. I don't know if you thought about it. I could be overthinking, but this stars Kristen Stewart, Katy O'Brien, which, if for those of you who don't know, she was in last year's Ant-Man Quantumania. She was in not Andor, it was Mandalorian seasons 2 and 3, like the most recent ones that came out. And that's pretty much all I've seen her in. She could be in other stuff, and I just don't know off the top of my head. But this is a non-spoiler review, so don't worry about it. We're not going to spoil anything for you. But if you do like the video, please give us a like, ring the bell, and of course subscribe. We do appreciate you all and want to keep the good stuff coming. And so essentially this is another kind of a throwback movie, and maybe not saying throwback, it's just a historical movie. It takes place in the 90s, though, so it's not that historical. But today's day and age of this generation of children, the 90s are like the 80s and 70s were for us when we were kids. So
yeah, it's 30 years ago now. You know, we're ancient history at this point.
But we still have Bowie. I'm just kidding. No, that was from Deadpool. So this one just Kristen Stewart. She's a girl who runs a gym, kind of, in a weird space in her life. She's alone, she's working, that's pretty much it. And then lo and behold, Katy O'Brien's character, Jackie, she comes along looking for a job, trying to become a professional bodybuilder, just kind of hitchhiking her way through the Midwest to, Vegas and stuff for it. And that's when she gets entangled with Kristen Stewart and her father, who's played by Ed Harris, and who's getting older, but he's like never aged in all the things I've seen him, and he always looks the same, and just with this time just creepy hair. I can't. It's so weird looking at it. But then as the movie ended, I was like, it actually oddly works for him. And also we also have some great talent like Jenna Malone, who I hated her character, but that's just how good of a job she does, and Dave Franco. Those are the only other two notable people I can think of in that movie. Other than that, essentially, not only just she get entangled in their lives, but it just becomes a whole toxic romance movie, essentially, with a lot of bad stuff happening. So that's as much as I could say about it. And surprisingly, it was actually really good. It's not that it didn't look good when I saw the trailers. I was just like, I don't know how this is going to go. Like, is it going to be super romance? Is it going to be super dark? And hate to say it, it's kind of a bit of both, which is just kind of interesting to work with. But Bern, what did you think of this most recent A24 film?
So, I mean, look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I always look forward to A24 movies because I know at least I'm getting something different, I'm going to get something weird, I'm going to get something crazy, something that's unexpected, and that's really refreshing when it comes to movies nowadays that seem very homogenous and paid by numbers and made by committee. So, I very much look forward to the A24 movies, even if they don't always hit for me. But, with the director behind this one, Rose Glass, who did, I believe it was 2019's Saint Maud. I don't know if you saw that one, but that was like a psychological horror movie, also A24, and that was really good. So I was like, okay, like let's see what she's got next, because I very much enjoyed that movie. And also Kristen Stewart being on board, and Katy O'Brien, who's been like very very like a relative newcomer to like feature films, like you mentioned. She's only been in a few pretty big things, but her roles haven't been as prominent. So it's like, okay, we're gonna see more from her. And then, as you mentioned, the supporting cast throughout here is also very interesting too. So I was definitely looking forward to this one, and hoping for the best for sure. And yeah, look, I really enjoyed this movie. The best way I would describe it is very close to the movie movie Drive. You know, Nicholas Winding Refn and Ryan Gosling's movie from a few years ago. It's very much like captures that sort of that like neon synth vibe. You know, the where it's like the seedy underbelly of like the crime world and stuff. And at the center of it, you have this this very adorable love story between two people that you know is sort of like not destined to be the best thing ever, but you know their attraction for each other like supersedes all of that. So those kind of stories are like tragic attraction is like very interesting, and to be set in like this sort of more countryside aesthetic. You know, this very much has that sort of noir feel to it, but it's not set in like, you know, the deep city. It's kind of like out in the boonies to, like as you would say, and that offered a very like different aesthetic to the movie, which I really enjoyed. But yeah, I thought it was shot really well. I thought the score by Clint Mansell was also really good, and yeah, it's just a very cool vibe of a movie that again took me back to the world of Drive, but just like in a different twist to it.
Yeah, it's one of those movies. When you told me about that, I was like, I could kind of see elements of it, but this is just one of those movies. I'm like, I can't think of a good comparison for it because it's just that it's a very unique story in a way. Um, I will say I do agree. I do agree with you on the cinematography. The score was very well done and just well shot in general. But I will say a couple things. One, it definitely makes me hate cigarette smoking more so in this movie because the way Kristen Stewart's character goes about it, and there are again, I don't want to spoil it, but I was just like, oh, it looks and sounds so gross. But no shame to those who do smoke, but you know, maybe just don't die from it. I will say also the 90s aesthetics. This is one of those movies that reminds me like the 90s transition period from like the 80s where mullets were still a thing and just all this stuff. It was just aesthetically it's all over the place. Like Burns said, he's praising it and I do respect it. Overall, I'm like from a different standpoint, I'm like it just makes a lot of things look grosser than they should. But again, that's just because it is a crime story. It's gritty, it's dirty, it's very low to the surface for everyone. So
Sort of removes that romance of the era, right?
yeah,
Where it's like,
yes, it
where it's a
does.
lot of movies that throw back to it. I have make it very glamorous and glitzy. It's like, oh, look at the '80s, weren't they so great? The early '90s, weren't they so cool? And here's it's just like, no, it's kind of
No,
ugly.
a lot of things in the 90s weren't. I mean, again, like growing up, just looking back, like the 90s and 2000s, like fashion and trends and stuff. I'm like, half this stuff does not work now. It did not look good, but fashion is what it is. It ever changes and improves or deproves, whatever. So, but I will say this is one of those movies that's award-winning material, especially for Kristen Stewart, Katy O'Brien. They killed it in this, just selling the story really well. Just a toxic whirlwind of a romance, and it's one of those. It's I think I was really thinking about it. I'm like, it's going to create that debate of it is it true love or is it a toxic relationship kind of thing. So because it's one of those things like you are willing to do whatever you need to do for the people you care about the most, and you know all that stuff, almost like Romeo and Juliet. But on the flip side of it, it's also like if that romance causes you to do horrible things, maybe you should really rethink your life and their decisions. But to each their own. I think it was a great movie, and I'm gonna give it a hard 4 out of 5, pun intended. Just because Katy O'Brien's like jacked in this, but she's not like the most jacked bodybuilder in the world. But I think that's also another trend. Not only we going back to the '90s, but I think a lot more movies when they're talking about like fitness and stuff, we're starting to see a little bit more of a bodybuilding trend, specifically also in like Iron Claw because they were wrestlers. This one, just a lot more things are kind of hearkening to that, which is cool. I've been my trainer. It doesn't look it, but I've been doing bodybuilding stuff myself a little bit, and it is a lot better. So that's my piece on that. But yeah, 4 out of 5.
Yeah, this is definitely like one of the earlier contenders of, you know, my favorite movies of the year. Of course, along with Dune Part 2, but this is very much a different type of story. Much smaller, much grimier, dirtier. You know, this is just like that going into that criminal underworld filled with like hardcore violence and like sex and drugs and everything. It's a very like dark movie, but I was enjoying myself the entire way through because the movie also doesn't take itself too seriously at the same time. You know, it's very much a sort of like a dark comedy at some moments, and I thought Kristen Stewart really definitely shined in those moments, and she doesn't get enough credit, I think, for a lot of her comedic timing, and I think she did a great job here. And yeah, look, her paired along with Katy O'Brien, who was just like an electric bolt of energy, including her physicality, which makes her like very interesting to look at. Again, a body type that's not really represented a lot in media for women. And it's cool to see something different, in these movies where you have a strong woman look like a strong woman, so that was really cool. And again, just getting into this criminal underworld with Ed Harris and Dave Franco, they were really great. And yeah, I mean, I just can't give this movie enough praise. I thought it was a very interesting and very fun time, and might be my infinity pool of this year, where it's an earlier movie that kind of just sticks with me for the rest of the year. And for me, it's also gonna be a 4 out of 5. Definitely recommend it to those that don't have a faint aren't of the faint of heart, because there are certain things in here that will take you aback.
Yeah, there's some gnarly things that happen. But other than that, yeah, solid movie. I was thinking when I was watching it, if Tatiana Maslany or Maslany, I forgot, I can't say her name, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Tatiana Maslany.
Maslany, if they didn't go their route of She-Hulk, Katy O'Brien would have been perfect for it, just physicality alone. Like, they could have done a much more grounded She-Hulk, and because she killed it. She was great. And again, yeah, I'm just really happy Kristen, like, I haven't seen a lot of Kristen Stewart's like super dramatic stuff or a lot of her indie work, but this is definitely one of those ones I'm like, this is up there for her. She definitely deserves something. So, for those of you who did happen to catch this movie, what did you think about it? We'd love to know your thoughts on it. But it goes without saying, Bern and I definitely recommend this for the theaters as well, with the $5 Tuesday or just date night, or, maybe if you're just in the mood for something outside of the standard Hollywood scene kind of thing. This is definitely it for you, because it's only available in regular theaters, so it's not like IMAX or Dolby, so it's not super expensive. But until next time, everyone, the one movie I'm definitely looking forward to after Doom Part 2 is Civil War, because that's getting a lot of good praise right now, so hopefully that's good. We'll definitely do a review on that. But until next
Yeah,
time,
lots of interesting movies coming out of South by Southwest. So definitely looking forward to checking all those out when they come, to general release.
I'm getting goosies thinking about it, Bern. But until next time, everyone, stay bodacious and keep on ranting for us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch y'all on the next one.